Hello. Do you ever have that experience where the lights go down and you get so excited for the show that you forget you're the one who's supposed to go on stage and welcome everyone? So I'm Clay Smith. I'm the literary director here at the Library of Congress. We're thrilled you're here. Welcome. And also welcome to everybody joining us on our live stream. We're glad you're here too. I just want to tell you all a little bit about what we're going to do tonight and a little bit about our Thursday nights here at the library. We call our Thursday nights Live at the Library. These are the nights when we keep the Thomas Jefferson Building open late. We leave our exhibitions open. There is food and drink for sale. And we produce a variety of cultural programming that connects in one way or another to the vastness of the library collections. So we want you to come back. Next Thursday, however, is sold out. That is a night we're calling Pick Your Poison, Mystery Night at the Library of Congress. And Louise Penny, famous, yeah, I thought you all might know who that is going to be here on this stage in conversation with Dr. Hayden, the Librarian of Congress. That is sold out, unfortunately, but we're going to live stream that, so go to loc.gov to attend that if you would like to. And about a month from now, Thursday, November 16th, we are going to have the celebrated public intellectuals and thinkers Simon Schama and Atul Gawande in conversation. Tickets are still open for that. They're free. They're at loc.gov. And Simon's new book is titled Foreign Bodies, and it's about our most recent pandemic, but he goes way farther back in history to pandemics from long ago that we know and love. So, okay, so typical housekeeping stuff. Could you please turn off your cell phones and any electronic devices that you have that might interfere with this event? Secondly, I want to let you know that we are recording this event. It is going to be online, and so by your presence here, you are agreeing that we can broadcast this event later on. It's not very often here at the library that we place a children's writer and an adult writer on the same stage, but the connection is strong between Kate DiCamillo, one of America's most beloved children's writers and our former National Ambassador for Young People's Literature, and award-winning writer Ann Patchett. Their friendship originated in one of the best ways a friendship can emerge, if you ask me. It emerged from words, from each other's words, and from a real literary affinity. So we are thrilled that they are here. It's also very rare that we do not have a moderator on stage asking questions of writers, but when the connection is so strong between two writers, the best idea really seems for me to get out of the way and let them do the talking. We don't really want other writers to know about that because I will be out of a job. So Ann and Kate will be in conversation tonight, and then I'll come back up on stage to lead the Q&A. We've got the mic stands here at the bottoms of the aisles, so just come down if you want to ask a question. And after the Q&A, Ann and Kate will be signing The Puppets of Spellhorst, which is Kate's brand new book, and Tom Lake, which is Ann's new novel, and we have some of their backlist titles for sale too. So please help me welcome Ann and Kate to the stage.
Hey, guess
we
what?
were practicing that backstage,
Yeah,
and I
right.
said to Ann at the last minute, do not make me jump by myself. I mean, like, that's exactly what everybody expects of a children's book writer, right? You know, it's like...
We just wanted to be really clear on who the public intellectual was and who the public intellectual was not.
Yeah.
Hey, Fluff, how are you?
I'm good. Anne is in charge here, so if y'all have any kind of complaints about how this unfolds,
Here.
Anne is the adult in the room.
And I also wanted to say that this is a clock. I am not going to be checking my email while we're doing our event.
So we spent the day walking around, going to the National Gallery, and occasionally we would say to each other, what should we do tonight? And then we thought we should talk to each other like we talk to each other all the time, except Anne will be in charge. So.
And Anne is never in charge, and the way we talk to each other all the time is I try to say something and you interrupt me.
That's correct. And we're off.
So we're going to be just true to form.
My feet don't quite touch the floor here. I'm trying to get some power somehow. Yeah, but I can't lean back, and it's this or this. And neither seems like a winning proposition. So, okay. All right.
Okay, so we're going to start with our origin story, because how does this happen when a grown-up author and a children's author become best friends?
How does it happen?
How does it happen?
You're going to tell the story, and I'm going to interrupt you.
And you're
So
going to interrupt me.
yeah.
Okay, so we had met, I want to say the first time that we met was in Minneapolis.
We met once before that when I came to Parnassus, and I made the mistake of saying that Anne was one of my heroes, and they called her because her house is close to the store, and she came in, and she brought Sparky, and I said, "This is why you never want to meet your heroes." I said, "Hi," and Anne said, "Hello," and that was it. And then she's like, okay.
But then what I remember is we met in Minneapolis, and it was at a Winter Institute. Is that, anyway, a bookseller convention thing, because I own a bookstore. And there were maybe 5 or 6 writers in conversation in front of a group of booksellers, and there was an empty chair next to me. And you said, I don't want to sit next to her.
That's right. Too intimidating. I mean, she really, I mean, and Anne doesn't let me say this, but this is, a writer that I studied and reread and mattered to my heart a great deal.
Okay, we're just going to go right past that.
See how it goes?
So all right, so
yeah.
Then this is actually the story of how we met. So we had these little unpleasant warm-up meetings. And then she was coming to the store, and the way it works for children's book authors is that you do school visits. And so the children's buyer at the bookstore would normally take you out to different schools, and you would give talks at schools. If I go to a store, I do one event at 6:30 at night. But if you go to a store, you have to do events all day long.
That is correct.
And
my feet don't touch the floor.
And your
so
feet
when I'm
don't
sitting
touch the floor, which is why the kids adore you. Okay. So there was a woman who worked at the bookstore at the time named Nikki Kaufman, and I always did whatever Nikki told me to do. And she called and she said, listen, Kate DiCamillo is going to be at the Oak Hill School, and you need to bring her lunch. She's going to be there with her publicist. You need to go out to the Oak Hill School and bring her lunch.
I have something to say.
Really?
I found this out, and I said, no, I don't. I mean, like, I'm going to have to sit and make, it's like I already tried to make conversation with you once when I said hi.
Twice.
Yeah. And it's just
it was
like,
a bomb.
oh, please don't have her do that. But she did it.
But it was too late.
Yeah.
So I picked up lunch for Kate, and I will just say, for reasons of clarity, I call Kate Fluffy. I picked up lunch for Fluffy and her publicist, and I went to the Oak Hill School, and we ate in the library on chairs in which your feet did touch the floor.
Very comfortable on those
like
chairs.
with your knees sort of bent a little bit. Yeah. And we had a really nice time, and then she was giving her talk, and I went into the auditorium, and I was listening to your talk, and then...
Which mostly was about a squirrel who gets sucked up into a vacuum cleaner. Yeah. And about my mother's Electrolux.
I remember the whole thing about your mother's
It's
vacuum
a really
cleaner.
professional, intellectual kind of presentation. Yeah, it's like...
It's, you know, Simon Schama would have given that same talk um, about his mother's vacuum cleaner, but you really got that covered. So I went home and I got an email from my friend Nell Freudenberger. And Nell Freudenberger, who's a wonderful, wonderful author, I'm going to cough, and it doesn't mean anything. And Nell Freudenberger said, "Do you by any chance know Kate DiCamillo?" And I said, "Funny you should ask, because I was with her today." And she said that she and her children had just finished reading The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. And she said, "I need you to find her and to tell her that this book absolutely changed our lives." And when I got off the phone, I thought to myself, I am such a jerk, because I had met you several times at this point, and I knew that you were a big fan, and I was kind of doing a little noblesse oblige thing, you know, like I'm going to bring you lunch because you like my work.
Because I love you so much,
Because
yeah.
you love me. And
Yeah.
I had not read your work, and I don't have children. I grew up in a time before children's literature had been invented. It's kind of true, you know. We went straight from Pat the Bunny to John Updike in my house, and there was nothing in between. And so I went to my locally owned and operated independent bookstore, and I bought The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane, and I read it that night, and Nell Freudenberger was completely right, and I made a decision that I was going to read all of your work. All of it in no particular order, but not...
You were sick as well. That helped. I mean, you were. She was. I mean, she was fine, but she was sick you were sick for almost 3 weeks when you worked your way through it. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Oh, I'm telling the truth. The thing that I want to say as Anne tells this story is that when she said that she was a jerk, that was what she emailed to me. I was a jerk for not reading your work. And it's a harsh word, but it also showed me exactly who Anne is, because she just offered herself up. And it like really, it's like I knew who you were just from that, because it's like Anne Patchett has sent me an email, you know, I'm all a quiver, but here she is as herself fully. I read this. I was a jerk not to have read it. And it's just like, that's Anne. So
well, and it's also sort of a larger jerkiness of not reading children's literature.
I don't know why we didn't try out these chairs beforehand. So, I mean, I would have I just, yeah.
Can you do this?
Yeah.
Can you do like the chicken sit? You know, where you...
Okay, yes, children's literature. Sorry.
Children's literature.
Yeah.
So I had it in my head that adults read adult books, that there was a real divide. And you
I think this is something that a lot of literate adults have. I
Yes,
mean,
absolutely. It's not
I,
just my
may,
problem.
may I take the stage for a moment? So, I mean, and we probably, I won't go into great detail about this, but like, when I started writing, I started where most people start, which is writing short stories for adults and sending them to literary magazines. Casey Sepp, I know you're out there. I sent it to the New Yorker. Catherine Schultz, you're out there as well. Sent it to the New Yorker. No, thank you.
Now the whole
they
audience
said.
is
Yeah,
going,
so
where?
are they?
Where are they? Where are they?
but
I have a story I want to send to the New Yorker.
And then I was working in a book warehouse, and I was assigned to the third floor. I was a book picker. The third floor was all children's books. And I entered into that job with this same divide in my head as Anne is talking about. It's just like, well, these are books for children. But as a reader, as I started to pick those books off the shelf, there was only a matter of time before I started to read them. And I read The Watsons Go to Birmingham, 1963. Raise your hand if you know it. And
God bless you.
yeah, right? And I thought I want to try to do something like this, because I didn't, it had changed so much since we were kids. So, okay, now you can have the stage again. Yeah.
So there are enormous pleasures in reading your books. One, this person is the E.B. White of our age. There.
Come on.
Hey.
Making me cry.
Okay,
That's not, I mean, like,
Oh,
no.
that's a really low bar to make you
Yeah,
cry.
yeah.
But there is so much pleasure in reading an entire novel in 2 hours. And a novel that is perfectly shaped, perfectly formed, with everything you would want in a novel, and yet it is complete. And during the pandemic, I had so many people come to me as a bookseller and say, I've lost or misplaced my ability to read. I just can't focus. And I started selling your books to adults and saying, this is what you want. This is a full experience of a novel, and you can finish it. You can hold the whole thing at one time. And that's an enormous part of the pleasure. There's so many different things going on. It's the writing, it's the storytelling, but it's also the completion. And the really fantastic review that was in the New York Times last Sunday or Sunday before last, I can't remember.
I don't know, but...
No, you do know. Could
but
you
there's
just...
there are
wait,
two
wait,
people on
please.
stage, and Anne has written a book called Tom
Okay,
Lake,
hang
and we're
on.
going to get to that.
We are going to get to that. Yay,
Yeah,
Anne, right,
yeah.
right. But the title of this wonderful review was Kate DiCamillo is Not Afraid of the Dark, which was such a perfect way of putting it. And you do such scary things, such loving but terrifying things in your work.
And life is terrifying, and it's filled with love and light. And this is the last thing we're going to say about me before we move on to. I mean, I'll use me as a bridge to get to you. So let me talk about that. The beginning of that friendship, when Anne told me that she was a jerk, and then I understood who she was.
A jerk.
A jerk. And we started, she was working on the Dutch House. This is going to get us to dedication. So,
Right.
So I'm going to set it up for you. I'm going to tee it up. That's what they say,
And then I'm going
right?
to just knock it out of the park.
Yeah, and then you're going to knock it out of the park. So she was working on the Dutch House, and I was, I have put down the gigantic Anne Patchett thing that she was in my head in the beginning, but I hadn't quite done it at this point. And she was like, "What are you working on?" And it's like, I'm not going to tell Anne Patchett what I'm working on. My teeth will fall out of my mouth.
I remember.
That's what I said.
Yeah, you did.
And she said, "This is what I'm working on." And she talked about it, and it's blah-bitty, blah-bitty. And she's like, "I'm really struggling with the end." And I said, "Okay, well, tell me a few more things, and I'll write the end for you." And I did, right? Yeah, I mean, I knew like 3 or 4 things, and I just wrote the end. And oddly, it worked for her for some reason.
It's the end of the Dutch House.
Yeah. And I mean, and I knew absolutely nothing. So now I've teed it up for you with dedications.
Okay, so and that's really true. She said, "What's the book about?" We were talking on the phone at this point. She lives in Minneapolis. I live in Nashville. We talked on the phone a good bit, and I said, it's about a house. There's a character named Maeve. There's a character named Danny, and I think that's really all you knew. And
so it was super easy to tie it up in a neat bow. I'm like, here you go.
10 minutes later, she sent me a paragraph, and it really was, that paragraph became the last 10 pages of the book. It helped me see what the final note of the book was. And I really wanted to dedicate the Dutch House to her, and I thought, I
don't know her.
actually don't
I'm
know
just-
her.
okay,
Like,
yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
super appreciative that she wrote the end of my novel for me. But I don't know her, so I shouldn't dedicate the book to her. Then the next book that I wrote was These Precious Days, and there is an essay about Fluffy in that book. which is it called just Reading Kate DiCamillo?
Yeah, it's because reading Fluffy sounds like Pat the Bunny. So
Right.
it's just like.
Right. And actually, the reason that I call her Fluffy is that when I was writing The Dutch House, there is a character in that book named Fluffy, because Fluffy is the name of the mother of one of my neighbors. And I just, when she said my mother's name is Fluffy, I was like, and they're from Mississippi, that really goes without saying. It's like Fluffy. And at some point at the end, I realized that Fluffy needed a last name. And so I called her Fluffy DiCamillo. And
Here I sit. Yeah, yeah.
and that's how it started. So I couldn't dedicate these precious days to her because there was an essay about her in the book. And I will also say I dedicated that book to the person who really deserved the dedication, Miley Malloy, who is a wonderful writer and helps me tremendously, especially with nonfiction. And when I told you that I was going to dedicate that book to Miley, you said, "What's the dedication?" And I said, "It's to Miley Malloy." And you were like, "Knock yourself out, man."
Yeah, right. It's like, put your heart on the page. Yeah, that's like.
Could you do just a little bit better than that? Which actually I couldn't, because Miley is the kind of person who would want a dedication that just was to Miley Malloy. Then it came time to dedicate Tom Lake.
Well, wait a minute. You're skipping something.
What am I skipping? And I know what I'm skipping, but you go ahead and tell that part.
Oh, okay. Well, then go ahead if you know what you're doing.
No, really, relieve me of my burden. Go ahead.
Well, I did say that, and Miley totally deserved that book. But in the interim, should I not tell it now? Go ahead. Okay. So I came to Anne's house and was working on this book about the puppets, and I had a complete draft, and we sat up, and I read the whole thing aloud to you. And do you see her face? Turn and show them your face. She has a great gift of attention, and she was totally with me, every word of that. She would stop me sometimes and say, "Not this, but that," and it's like, got it. And it was a really powerful experience to sit and read. It's a novella, but still, to read it aloud.
All right. How many people...
I knew that she wouldn't be able to let me just...
How many people would enjoy having Kate DiCamillo come to their house and read them an entire novel that she had just written, right? Like, this is not about the incredible power of my attention or my willingness to listen to
It
read.
It is, and we're not going to argue on stage. But
what are we
we already have, yeah. And so I knew that I wanted that. The next morning when we got up at breakfast, she said, "That book is built like a Swiss watch," which was such a compliment. And I want to say this, which I haven't said on stage, and I've said it to you, and I said it to you the first time I visited, and I just want to say it, and then we're going to go back to Tom Lake. That Anne arrived in my life not only as this person who wrote books that mattered so much to me and that I had studied and that had sustained me, but she arrived and read everything that I had written all in one great gulp. My friends have watched it, as it's come out of the sausage maker, and they didn't see it as a whole. And so Anne saw it all as a whole, which I remember just standing on a street corner in Nashville and saying, "That's a great gift that you gave me," because I could then see it as a whole. So I would just like to, in the presence of all of y'all, say thank you for that. It was a great gift, and that's what that moment of reading the puppets kind of coalesced all of that for me. So I dedicated it to Anne Patchett, who When the art started to come in, I wanted to show it to her. I wanted the dedication to be a surprise, but I had to show her the art because that's the way we roll. We're up in each other's business all the time. And I'm like, I want you to see the art, and then she was going to see the dedication. It says to Ann Patchett, who listened clear-eyed from beginning to end. And
then time went on, and
it did go on, yes, yeah.
if this was a film from the 40s, pages would be blowing off a calendar right now. And we got the invitation to do this event. And we were talking on the phone, and Fluffy said to me, I think that it's really going to be great. They're going to really like to have the two of us together because I dedicated my book to you. At which point I said, well, I dedicated my book to you, and I hadn't told you that.
And then what happened? What happened?
And then you began to cry again.
Yeah, I did.
Because that's how you fly. So the dedication to Tom Lake is to Kate DiCamillo, who held the lantern high. And it's very funny because as I have been on book tour, everybody wants to talk about the dedication. And I would have just said to Kate DiCamillo, but because you had busted my chops about how I had shown up short from Miley, I thought I needed to do something better. So we email to each other pretty much every morning and every night. And here's an interesting fact. If you email with a children's book author or illustrator, the emails are very short. People write emails the same way they write novels or books. So if I am emailing with a novelist friend, then often the emails are unspeakably long.
Not mine, man.
But not yours.
No.
So she, every morning, will send an email saying, I'm going down to the rabbit hole to work, or the chipmunk is going down the rabbit hole to work, which
Mixing my metaphors, but
right,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And when I was working on Tom Lake, she would say, and you're off to the cherry orchard for the day.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, she would say, I'm at the edge of the cherry orchard. I'm holding up the lantern. It's time for you to come out. It's time for you to, yeah, right? And so people, as I've been on tour, they say things like, is that because she's your Virgil? And I'm like,
Anne quickly disabuses
No.
that notion, yes. Like,
she's not my Virgil. All right, I want to ask you a puppet-based question.
But
No.
wait,
Wait,
got there
wait,
so
wait.
elegantly and naturally.
I want to ask you a puppet-based question. Would you like to hear it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So often when I write, the whole time we've been back there, she's like, you're in charge, you have to do everything. And then I'm like, yeah, right, I'm in charge. What happens to me often when I finish a novel, a couple of novels down the road, or sometimes just one novel down the road, I have a good idea for a novel, and then I'll think, I really want to write a novel about an opera singer. And then I'm like, shoot, I already did that.
Yeah.
I can't write another novel about an opera singer. I've been thinking about recently wanting to write a novel about a friend who's at the end of his life and telling each other a story, and then I think, oh, I can't do that because that's too much like Tom Lake. You have written a book about puppets. These puppets who have no agency at all, flopped in the bottom of a box together. And I thought, this is so great that you can do this, because you've already written a very, very important, shall I say, seminal novel about a rabbit. The seminal novel about a rabbit puppet.
Yeah. Well, he would take umbrage at the word puppet. And also, if you were going to move to doll next, that would also bother him. He's just a rabbit, made of china. Yeah, and I did think when I was doing the puppets, well, wait a minute, I did Edward, but I mean, does that mean that all inanimate objects are out the door?
I wonder.
No, I mean, because then I'm really up a paddle without a canoe, because that's, so no, and
That's the other way around.
I'm up a canoe without, I'm up a creek in a canoe without a paddle, all right?
For the win.
You can see what it's like to read something aloud to her. What?
I'm up a paddle? Wait, I'm up a paddle? Yeah. I'm sorry, doesn't a good friend...
I'm up a creek in a canoe without a paddle. Okay, but wait a minute, Anne. Yeah. Anne and I think this is really interesting because I don't know if you get it as much as I do, but people always want to know how to write a novel, right? And with kids will just flat out ask it. Adults ask it in a more roundabout way, and everybody always thinks there's a way to do it that's right. She and I could not work more differently, and it's just when she was working on the Dutch House when I showed up. I never talk about what I'm working on until I have a draft that I can read to somebody, and Anne carries it around in her head until she knows the elements of it, and then she starts to write it, correct? And I sit down with a wolf puppet and an owl puppet is where I started, and I'm not going to get anywhere until I start doing the writing. And then when Anne was asking me this question about how did you think that you could do another inanimate object book, it's like once I feel like the story it has legs, it doesn't matter. Then it doesn't have anything to do with me and what I did before. Then the puppets, even though they have no agency, are in control. And my job is to get out of the way and let the story happen. And I didn't get to say that to you today when we were in the art museum, but does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And what's beautiful about it is everybody works in a completely different way.
Right, and I'm glad that you came back to that point, because this is what I want to say to all the writers in the room. The only wrong way to do it is if you know that it's something that you want to do and you're not doing it. Other than that, all bets are off about how I like to tell a story about being in an auditorium in Connecticut, and I was talking about how I don't know what's going to happen in a story, and a little boy raised his hand and said, what if you have a teacher that says you have to outline your story before you write it? And I'm like, is your teacher in the auditorium right now? And he's like, yeah, that's her right there. And I had to turn to her and say, with respect and love, if I was the 9-year-old sitting in your class and you told me that was the way I had to write a story, I would not be able to do it. And so it is so much a journey of discovering your own voice and discovering the way that you work, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. We could not be more different in how we do this.
And I will say the other part that I think is really important, and this is probably equally true for people who want to write children's books or people who want to write adult books, is that so many people think in terms of wanting to sell them. They think about how am I going to get an agent, how am I going to get a publisher, but also how will the book be received. People say to me all the time, I have this story I want to tell, but there are too many people in my life who would be devastated by it, and therefore I can't tell it. And I always say, you're just letting yourself off the hook. Mm-hmm. Your only job is to write. Your job is not to sell. Your job is not to think about how people will review it or receive it. Your job is just to write it.
Yeah, and that's a really, really good point, because that's the whole thing about getting out of your own way, right? It's just like there's a wonderful Beverly Cleary thing, and I talk to you about this all the time, where Ramona is reading a book that has a witch illustration in it, and she likes to flip it open and look at it and then slam it shut and just scare herself a little bit. And that's the way, it's like, that's exactly the way I approach, oh no, I've already done an inanimate object, or no, oh no, people are going to hate this. It's just like, no, I slammed the book on it. You cannot think about that. You have to get out of your own way and answer for what you can answer for, you know?
Yes. I would also like to say, in terms of work, in my circle of writer friends, before we became friends, I was thought of as pretty productive. Until I started hanging, I just heard my husband laugh. Wow. Wow. Okay,
I don't know, I feel like...
maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I actually haven't been that productive. But this one is always saying, and I think I've kind of beaten this out of you, but you were like, okay, you finished your novel yesterday. What are you going to work on today? What are you going to do today? Have you started another novel? What page are you on? How many pages did you write today? Are you going to do this? Have you done your edits? Did you get your copy edited?
She scared me at one point when I asked her. She said in a very menacing tone, don't ask me that again. And it's like...
Stop. Because the way you work...
Mm-hmm. Incrementally.
But on so many different things at different points of the process.
Yes.
Tell them, or I will.
I don't know which it she's referring to, so I
So
can't.
she's writing a novel for middle grade readers called Ferris, and then she is also working on a Mercy Watson, but she's got an early reader that's coming back with notes from your editor, and then you have a Decawoo Drive, and then
But they're not novels, Anne. They're shorter things, and you
But
know.
how can you keep all of that up in the air at the same time? Every single day you
I
work.
feel like I've been called to the principal's office.
Yeah,
felt that
for
sudden
doing
shiver.
too much.
Yeah,
but
terrible.
I mean, I can go for a year without writing.
But you haven't. You've said that to me. You said that to me, and I haven't seen it happen. You're talking about knocking them out of the park. Carl can laugh, but I mean, you're like, I mean,
And he does every day.
Yeah. I mean, you're really you are producing astonishing amounts of stuff.
Not
Yeah.
compared to you, babe.
Okay, let's move to Tom Lake for a minute, because as Anne was working on Tom Lake, I had the great privilege and joy of reading, and I kept on saying to her, this is going to be a book that people, it's so elegiac. So raise your hand if you've read it. And this
Thank
is what
you.
you said.
Yeah.
This is what you've said everywhere you've gone, which is different than.
Yeah.
It is something that it is. I had sent a copy to my best friend, and we were talking about books, and she said I needed something else like Tom Lake that speaks directly to my heart that way. So let's have a round of applause.
Oh no!
For Anne
Wait!
Patchett and
Oh.
Tom Lake. I win.
Thank you. I actually have applause issues. That would be a whole other thing.
That's great.
We're going to have to recommend books.
Oh yeah, we were going to talk about reading. Yes.
We need
Yeah.
to do that.
Yes,
Because
yes.
we have 7 minutes before
7
we have
minutes
to go to audience questions.
Yeah, to talk about. This is another beautiful thing about being friends with Anne, is because she gets so many. ARCs, advanced reading copies, and then they come my way. And although, I have to say that I've been following her around with books ever since it's like, can I send you such and such? Coles to Newcastle, she says to me. No, you can't send me a book. And so I'm always reading what Anne tells me to read. And she's never reading what I tell her to read.
And let me explain why that is.
Yes.
It's because I own a bookstore. And because, no, seriously, I don't read things that are already published. And that's just the truth. I mean, I feel like I read 4 or 5 books a year that have come out because it's my responsibility to read things that will be published 5 months from now.
Can I ask you a question about reading? Because we referenced this today when we were walking
They'd
around.
probably rather actually hear titles of books, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, you can rattle them off. You're a professional. When you're reading, does it spark something for you? Like, do you think, oh, I wanna? Do you see something or feel something in somebody else's book that then gives you an idea for a book? Does that happen? I mean, I know our town was very...
You mean, am I a plagiarist?
You know what? I know her well enough that I could see her thinking, oh boy, here comes a big fat softball and I'm going to knock it out of the park. Yeah, I could see you doing that calculation. No, you know what I mean? Like sparks. Do you get sparks from, like, I see like a phrase or a word somewhere in somebody else's book and a whole avenue opens up before me and I think, oh, that direction. That doesn't happen for you?
It happens rarely. And this kind of goes back to the question of influence. People love to say, who are your literary influences? And I always say, influence is something that happened when I was young. So it's not the books that I loved the most. It was the books that I read when I was still at a point in my life where I was capable of being influenced. But every now and then I read something that is so new that it makes me rethink how things can be written. Hanif Abdurraqib is a writer that I read A Little Devil in America thinking, I didn't know it could be this way. And actually, I felt that way about Kaveh Akhtar's Martyr, which is coming out in January.
I have the arc now.
and
I'm
you're
almost
almost
done.
finished
Yeah,
with it.
it's astonishing. Yeah,
But that again is a case where I just thought, oh, I didn't know.
it rearranges something.
It really does.
Yeah.
And there are many terrible things about owning a bookstore and not being able to read Henry James anymore. But there are many wonderful things about it because I read so many young people. I read so many books I would never have bumped up against in my life. Let me just tell you.
Here we go.
What
you should read.
Yeah, this is like, if you all want to get your phones out, go ahead. Margaret Rankel's The Comfort of Crows.
Yes.
Margaret Rankel is an op-ed writer for the New York Times, and she has a new book that is coming out. What is today? What day of the week is today?
Today is Thursday.
Thursday. Came out on Tuesday. So you can get it. It's an astonishing book. It's called My Backyard Year, and it's 52 essays. But it's about the earth, it's about nature, it's about climate change, it's about what we can actually do. But it's also just a passionate love story for all living things.
Yeah.
The book that is my favorite book for 2023, which will be published in 2 weeks. I'm so excited to say we're finally getting close to it. Alice McDermott's Absolution.
Yes.
And if Alice McDermott doesn't win the Pulitzer this year, Alice McDermott, this is her 9th novel. She has been shortlisted for the Pulitzer 3 times. This is her year.
Yeah.
And if it is not her year, it is because it is James McBride's year, Heaven and Earth Grocery. Those 2 books are so neck and neck for me.
Yeah. Oh boy. I'm just sitting next to Anne, thinking, lucky me that these like that, because the Alice McDermott, like that was a long time ago that you. It was the one that you didn't want to let go of. I had to send it on to the next person too because it's unbelievably wonderful. And part of it is in Harper's. There's as a short story.
Oh, I didn't know that.
in the most.
But in the same way that Louise Erdrich has this unbelievable body of brilliant work, and then there is The Night Watchman, and you're like, oh, I didn't think that she could go up a step, and that does. Barbara Kingsolver, a body of work, and then Demon Copperhead. I feel like nothing in what she had done prepared me for Demon Copperhead, and that's the way I feel about Absolution, having read all of Alice's novels.
Absolutely
Do you want to
haunting.
jump in with things that you are loving by
Oh,
people
well, I'm
who've
loving
been
whatever
dead
you're
for
feeding
centuries?
me. Yeah, you know, Anne followed me around, and I'm more of a fiction reader, but do y'all know Monsters: A Fan's Dilemma?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Claire
and
Dederer.
yeah, for like a month, that was like, you got to read this, 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 and it's just like. And then when she was in Minneapolis a couple weeks ago, she bought it and shoved it in my hand. So then it's like, okay, I'll read it, and it is absolutely fantastic. I said to Anne, it's like having a conversation. You know how when you're having a conversation with somebody, and you can feel your brain like thinking in a different way. It is like a good
Yes.
conversation with a really smart person.
Yes.
It's astonishing. So
All right, now we are
time?
we are at time, and Clay is going to come back up, and he is going to moderate the questions, and I, as a bookseller, am going to say, y'all know what a question is. I say that as somebody who moderates so many events, and I'm like, that's not a question. Ask a question. Okay,
Yeah.
I said it.
And I was going to say a round of applause for our writers, but Anne doesn't. Yeah, no more applause. Stop. Okay,
Jazz
who
hands.
has the first question? Just as a reminder, we have these mic stands. Don't be shy. If you can come down for our audience who's watching online, we prefer you to come down so everybody online.
I'm
can
putting
hear.
my money
Okay.
on this guy.
We'll try to go here and then there. Do you have a question? Just, can you go straight up to the,
What's the favorite book that you guys written?
what is the favorite book that you've each written?
do you get asked this question? Do you
I
have
do.
Okay, I'm going to listen to your answer, and then I'm going to tackle it. Yeah.
Commonwealth, don't read it. You?
I can never ever pick a favorite. My answer usually is when I have an audience. Like, are you here with? Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have two half brothers.
Okay, and like if you say to any of your parental units, which is your favorite child, you can watch them look like they're gonna pass out, and because it makes adults so nervous.
No, clearly he's the favorite.
Yeah. But it's like the books to me feel like my kids, and I see them as like deeply flawed but lovable anyway. And so, but I love them equally, but differently as
And
individuals.
I'm just going to answer this question for her. My favorite Katie Camillo is the Magician's Elephant.
Yeah, and that's so funny we're not gonna. Yeah, okay,
Be
that
here
was
all
a
night.
good question. Okay, yeah.
Okay, over here.
Hi, for Anne, are Emily's coming up and saying hello? People who have been Emily. I am one. In 1974, my senior year of high school in a little
Bless.
Christian school in Tokyo, Japan.
Wow.
But I really want to ask.
Yes.
With Tom Lake, I so enjoyed the family unit with the daughters, and I was wondering if a sequel could possibly be in the works.
No,
Wow.
I will never. I will really never write a sequel to anything because I believe that a novel should end at the point at which you, as the reader, has enough information to imagine the story going forward.
Okay.
So
We're
that's,
writing the
that's
sequel.
yours.
All right.
And I also want to say, yes, I get people saying I was Emily, but I'll tell you what I get on this tour that I had no idea with. I am one of three sisters. I have three daughters. I had no idea that was a thing. If the only people who bought this book were one of three daughters, it would be a smash. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question, and it is, it's for Katie Camillo, and what is your favorite book title that you have made?
My favorite book title that I have made. I really, truly cannot answer that question. Even though you're sly in how you did that, you rephrased it. But let me say this. The very first book that I wrote was called Because of Winn-Dixie. And do you know that one?
Yeah.
And to me, I mean, I'm not going to pick a favorite, but it was like this golden door that I got to walk through because people responded to that book with their hearts. And everything that has happened to me as a writer has happened because of Winn-Dixie. So, or because of Ann Patchett. So there, you got, yeah.
And it's really funny. I can say to somebody, do you know Kate DiCamillo? And they'll be like, I'm not sure. And I'm like, because of Winn-Dixie? And they're like, oh, because of Winn-Dixie. Yeah. So it is really your name.
Thank you both. You talked about certain books that like rearrange the way you thought or like you didn't know it was possible. And the world is so crazy. So what needs to be rearranged and made possible so that the world is better? Yeah.
You mean through books? I mean, I would say Margaret Rankel is doing a knockout job at making a better world through books. I would say Ross Gay is doing a good job improving the world with books. I would say Jim McBride is doing a really good job at just reminding us of the love and connection between people.
And Richard Rousseau does the same thing too. Yeah. So
there's a lot of comfort to be had and a lot of direction to be had in literature.
And as somebody who writes for kids, I am duty bound, honor bound to write towards hope. And so I have to say, I'm so grateful to have this job because I know what I need to write towards always is that light. And I believe that I have seen it, you have seen it, it's something that we get to talk about quite a bit, how we want to do more of it, that putting the right book in the right hands at the right time can save somebody's life. And so it's like that I know, and so, yeah.
Thank you.
So I know what it was like for me to hear Meryl Streep read your beautiful book. I wonder what it was like for you to have Merle and Tom read your books. And who's next? Who's doing your next one?
First, I've got to write one, but I'll tell you, I was in the room where it happened. So when Meryl was reading Tom Lake and she worked for 4 days, I was there for the first 2 days. And in the room with her, it was a film studio. I didn't know that was even possible because usually the person recording is in a booth. And it was absolutely astonishing. And she doesn't make mistakes. She doesn't get tired. She just works and works and works. And at one point, she read a scene that made me cry. Now, I cry once every 5 years, and it's about 3 tears. I am not a crier. It's the Mutt and Jeffness of our relationship. And when she finally took a sip of water, I said, "Oh my gosh, you made me cry." And I said, "That's just so dumb. I knew what was going to happen." And she said, "Oh, sometimes I turn the television on and one of my old movies will be on. I'll sit down and watch it and I'll cry." Thank you.
Hello. My palms are sweaty, my knees are knocking, but I would be remiss if I didn't get up here and tell you both what a huge difference you have made in my life. Really, truly.
Thank you.
And theirs as well, apparently. I started reading again because of Dutch House. The Dutch House just reminded me of how deeply I love books.
Thank you.
And yes, thank you. And because of Winn-Dixie is why I started writing middle grade. And you both just have such incredible gifts. And I will get to my question, which is...
I was going to say, are you afraid of Anne?
I am.
Because you're in combat land. Yeah.
I am. Here's my question. But I had to say that. You mentioned writers that write think about selling and that they should just be writing their story. However, in middle grade, particularly right now, we're in a world where it is really hard to sell middle grade for a new author that's never been published. So what is your advice to us? Because I don't want to just write for myself. I do want to write to save a life, to change a life. So I would love your advice.
I would say, and you can take this too as a bookstore owner and as a writer, but you write towards the hole in your own heart, and don't pay any attention to what you're supposed to be writing. I remember. Because when Dixie was getting ready to be published, and somebody who was in the industry said to me, "It's a shame that it's coming out now because fiction for kids. It was all about picture books then. You cannot write towards anything except the hole in your heart, and which is." Oddly, the more unique you make it, the more it speaks to everybody else. So put your blinders on, do your work, and you have to be relentless. Do not give up. When I go in and talk to a group of kids, I put the number of rejections up on the overhead, and I say, okay, so you send stories out and you get rejection letters, and then guess how many I got? And they say 10. 25, and then I put 473 up there, and there's bedlam in the room. And I always say to them, imagine, every time I stand up here in front of this number, I think, what if I'd given up at 471? You cannot make yourself talented, you cannot make yourself lucky, you can make yourself relentless, and you can make yourself do the work, so you can do it. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I love both of you. I read The Puppets of Spellhorst, and then I went back and read Flora and Ulysses. So I don't know if it's a coincidence, but
Is there a vacuum cleaner in Spellhorst? Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, I noticed that there's the puppet who's a shepherd girl, and then I just happened to notice in Flora and Ulysses, there's the shepherd girl, the picture of the shepherd girl.
She's in a rut.
No, it's a really interesting question, and it's one of these things that I say when I'm doing all the interviews prior to something coming out. Every time I talk to somebody who's read it, I learn something else about what I'm doing because I have no idea, right? And the lamp in Flora and Ulysses, my mom was a very beautiful woman. She looked like a movie star, and that's not me. And she had a lamp that was this elegant lamp, and that ended up in Flora and Ulysses in the back of my mind way. And the shepherd probably goes, the shepherdess probably goes back to my beautiful mom without me being aware of it. You write behind your own back, and you don't know what you're doing, and that's good, that I don't know, because I'm tapping into making all kinds of connections that I wouldn't be able to make if I was thinking about it and trying to do it, right? So I would fail miserably. It's a beautiful point. I'll be taking that into conversations as I go forward. So,
I think we have time for one more question.
is that all?
Yeah. But they're doing a signing, and you can ask questions at their signing.
So this is for Kate. I grew up with your stories, and I want to thank you for bringing so much beauty and so much tenderness into the world. And I also want to ask a question that I think is terrifying, but I ask it genuinely because I believe that children have an innate desire to know, and it is that in this moment, how can we teach children about the trauma of what is happening? And as children in the US and in Gaza are suffering for simply being born as Palestinian, how can we teach them, how can we protect them against the worst of the violence, but also teach them to be courageous and curious and compassionate about what's happening in the world?
It's a beautiful question. Thank you for your young self who read the books. And I think that that's the job of all of children's literature, is to tell the truth. Because that Katie Camillo is not afraid of the dark. I get criticized for the darkness in the books, And I used to say any kid who gets on a school bus every day knows just how treacherous the world is, right? But now it's just like, you're kidding me. You think a kid doesn't know what is going on in the world. We need to acknowledge how terrifying things are, and we need to equally point out that they're beautiful, and with the beauty comes hope, and also with the connection that can be found in a story. And I say this to kids all the time. Chances are you're never gonna meet me, but I'm there with you when I am telling you a story. We become a community, and that alone sometimes that connection between reader and writer can offer enough comfort to withstand this world. That's what I think, so.
So we have, as I said, books for sale by both writers in the info desk, sort of where you came into the library. And just across the hallway in the Whitall Pavilion, which is just this room over here, adjoining this auditorium, they will be signing. They have asked that if you want the book personalized, we're going to have some Post-it notes for you. So we're going to take down your name to sort of make it speedier. And request also for no selfies. We're going to try to practice some social distancing. Thank you all so much for being here, and let's thank Kate and Anne again.
Wait.
I wanted to say something.
I wanted to say something, and I bet we wanted to say the same thing. Thank you to our interpreters who did such a beautiful job tonight.
It's so comforting. It's so comforting. Thank you.
Thank you both. And I love to watch you trade off.
Yeah.
It was like us,
Yeah,
you know?
no, it was like, yeah. And to all of you who read books, who find comfort and connection in books, thank you.
Thank you.